10. The Lipstick Bounty Hunters. 2013 was a bad year for female bounty hunters. In California, a man sued a group known as the Lipstick Bounty Hunters after they attacked him in an Arby's restaurant. The bounty hunters shot him with rubber bullets, zapped him with a stun gun, broke his nose, and blinded him with pepper spray. The victim, Daniel Duvall, had been trying to enjoy a nice and easy lunch at the fast food joint when the women, clad all in pink and wielding weapons, came out of nowhere and used everything they could to subdue him like he was the most wanted man in America. To be fair, Daniel was wanted. He had a $4,000 debt owed to a bail bond company related to charges of drugs and weapons, but he claimed it was no excuse to come after him with such unyielding force. It was all captured on video, too, and uploaded by the Lipstick Bounty Hunters. The women rushed the restaurant, hit him with a stun gun, shot him twice in the eyeball, basically straight up assaulted him. Yet even with all the excessive force, he still managed to get in his car and drive away. In response to the allegations of excessive force, the owner of the Lipstick Bounty Hunters, Teresa Galt, told News 8 that they didn't use enough force. She said that by law they are allowed to use enough force as necessary to make an arrest. But of course, that's not true. They were slapped with a lawsuit for millions of dollars. 9. The wrong address. 3 bounty hunters have gotten into some serious trouble for kicking down a man's door and holding him at gunpoint. Not only did this trio of bounty hunters hold a gun on the man, but they pointed loaded weapons at his 16-year-old child. They may have gotten away with it if not for the fact that the man they were pointing their guns at had nothing to do with the person they were looking for. It was the wrong house entirely. Imagine the terror the man must have felt when 3 armed men broke through his front door in Nashville and started screaming at him. His poor kid, too. The accidental break-in happened on February 8, 2021. Bounty hunter Khalil Abdullah and 2 men under his employ charged into the home of Lavaris Comer looking for a totally different man named Tavares. They knocked him to the ground, held guns on him, and didn't listen to a word he said in protest. It took a few minutes, but they did eventually realize their mistake. At that point, the 3 bounty hunters turned and fled. Unfortunately for them, Lavaris ran out of his house and managed to get their license plate number as they were speeding off. 2 months after the incident, on April 15th, the bounty hunters were arrested and charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. They also faced aggravated criminal trespass charges. 8. Kidnapped for ransom. On November 4, 2021, a man in Aurora, Colorado was kidnapped at gunpoint in front of his family by a bounty hunter who seriously overstepped his boundaries. 5 men dressed in black and armed to the teeth stormed the apartment of Jose Salguero Martinez. They took him to a Best Western hotel in handcuffs and with a black hood over his head. Once they got him into the room, they phoned his aunt and told her that if she didn't give them $1,500 in cash, they were going to hand Jose over to the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. It had nothing to do with a criminal case. It was a simple act of extortion. The aunt went to family members and managed to raise the $1,500 plus $250 to pay for the bounty hunter's hotel room. But when they brought the cash, the bounty hunters demanded another $5,000. The extra money was to make the warrants with ICE go away. It was only now that the family realized they were being extorted. They phoned the Denver police, who went to the hotel room and didn't do anything. They said they didn't see anything suspicious and walked away from the kidnapping. The kidnappers then took their hostage and moved to a different hotel. The family continued to contact the police and eventually convinced them to contact ICE. ICE said they had no reason for Jose to be arrested. They also don't use bounty hunters. The police had to go back to the hotel room, and 2 of the kidnappers were arrested and charged with second-degree kidnapping. The other 3 involved managed to get away and are still at large. 7. From hunter to killer. Palm Springs bounty hunter Fabian Hector Herrera is accused of fatally shooting a fugitive in front of police officers while trying to make an arrest. It happened on April 23, 2021, when Fabian entered the home of David Spahn at about 2:30 in the morning. He was there at the behest of a bail bond agency because David had allegedly disabled the GPS device he was supposed to be wearing in accordance with his bail agreement. He had originally been arrested on a misdemeanor charge for violating a protection order. But everything went south very quickly. David initially called the police because somebody was trying to break into his home. His alarm company was also reporting that there was a break-in. By the time officers arrived, Fabian had already entered the house and was in a standoff with David. David had picked up a knife and was waving it at Fabian and the police officers. When one of the cops told him to put the knife down, he refused. The officer then used a stun gun, but it didn't work. David continued to advance with the knife, and that was when the officer said, "Shoot." Fabian assumed he was talking about shooting the man with his gun, and so he opened fire on David. This is where things get convoluted and controversial. The police officer didn't want Fabian to shoot David with his gun, but assumed he had a stun gun. He thought he was talking to another cop, not a bounty hunter. And yet, prior to the incident, Fabian had identified himself as a bounty hunter and not an officer of the law. It was a very strange misunderstanding that left one man dead. Fabian has since been arrested and charged with murder, and so too has his mother for supplying David with a firearm and committing perjury. However, Fabian has pleaded not guilty. Plus, body cam footage of the incident proves the officer told Fabian to shoot. We're just waiting now for the case to go to trial. How do you think this case should turn out in court? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to hit subscribe before the end of the video. 6. Impersonating a U.S. Marshal. A supposed freelance bounty hunter was arrested after impersonating a federal law enforcement officer. It happened on November 22, 2021. Jeremy Hughes walked into a business in Berkeley County and told the employees he was a U.S. Marshal on a manhunt. He was carrying a shotgun and had a pistol holstered on his side. He was also wearing a shirt that had police written on it, as if this is the defining thing that makes people believe you're a cop. Jeremy told the employees of the business he was looking for a man dressed all in orange who had been spotted in the nearby woods. He then left the business and called them back 10 minutes later to say he had captured the individual. When the police caught up to Jeremy, they found he was in possession of several firearms and a whole heap of methamphetamine. They also learned that he had never arrested anyone and wasn't even a bounty hunter. He was just really high on meth and running around pretending to be either a freelance bounty hunter or a U.S. Marshal. What the heck? 5. The death of Randy Howard. In 2015, a bounty hunter shot a 65-year-old country singer named Randy Howard to death. Randy may have been an outlaw in his old age, but he was also a veteran musician who had released 7 records and performed on stage with some of the most influential country music stars in history. Randy was all about the country and all about the outlaw lifestyle. He even made sure that his final moments on Earth were spent in a shootout. It was the night of July 9th when bounty hunter Jackie Schell tried to serve Randy with a bench warrant on a failure to appear. The country music singer was facing charges on his 4th DUI, as well as some other criminal charges. Jackie had been authorized by a bail bonding company over 80 miles away in the Tennessee town of Dunlap to bring him in. Jackie, a former detective, easily tracked Randy down to the house where he lived by himself. At some point during the altercation, shots were fired. Randy ended up dead, and Jackie had to be taken to the hospital for emergency surgery. Jackie lived. He also managed to escape any kind of homicide charge because he claimed Randy shot first. The truth is that if the old country singer was drinking and alone and Randy tried barging into his home, that's probably exactly what happened. 4. Targeting the chief of police. In 2015, a bounty hunter accidentally targeted the police chief of Phoenix in one of the most botched raids imaginable. His name is Brent Farley, and he was arrested after he and some friends, fellow bounty hunters, swarmed the house of Police Chief Joseph Yonner. Everyone in the group was armed, they looked extremely dangerous, and they were looking for a drug suspect from Oklahoma. This is a really weird case. Brent was not and is not a licensed bounty hunter, and yet he and his crew of armed men showed up to the chief's house and refused to leave his property while threatening him with their weapons. How did this go so wrong? Well, Brent had gotten a tip via social media that the suspect he was looking for was at the house, but it was obviously fake. The tip given by a man named Aaron Bray. Aaron presumably thought it would be funny to send the bounty hunter to the house of the police chief. In the end, the bungled raid saw Brent get 2 years of probation, while Aaron was arrested and also sentenced to 2 years of probation. No one involved thought it was funny. 3. Dog the bounty hunter's Justin Behag. In 2020, Justin Behag from the show Dog the Bounty Hunter was arrested in Colorado in connection with violating probation. Probation he had been given because of a domestic violence charge. Justin is not actually related to Dog, but is the son of Moon Angel, the woman Dog allegedly started dating after Beth passed away in 2019. Justin was also on the wrong side of a feud between him and Lisa Chapman, Dog's daughter. She'd accused him of trying to steal her stepmom's ashes. It was Lisa Chapman who tipped off the Edgewater Police Department after she got a hold of videos showing Justin drinking alcohol, something he wasn't allowed to do on probation. She was the one who had officers sent to his house, where they found him drinking and smoking dope. Justin was arrested for violating his probation, but later released without any real repercussions. This was just one more dramatic twist in the story of America's favorite bounty hunter, who hasn't done much but caused drama since his TV show ended. 2. An illegal assault. In 2018, a pair of bounty hunters from North Carolina beat up a man named Charlie Levy and tried to arrest him. But according to the Galloway police in Tennessee, where the incident took place, the bounty hunters had no right to be there, nor did the victim have an active warrant. When Charlie opened the door to see who was banging on it, one of the bounty hunters grabbed his hand and put him in cuffs. They pulled him off his porch, jumped on him, and started beating him senseless for no reason. They broke his eye socket and shattered his nose as he lay under them screaming for help. Charlie's fiancée watched in horror from the doorway, then ran inside to get the phone and called the police. When the cops came, they arrested William Delaney and Todd Stubbs. The pair of bounty hunters were trying to extradite Charlie out of Memphis back to North Carolina on a bond forfeiture from the year before, but they weren't actually allowed to do this, and the whole mess landed them in jail on charges of aggravated assault and kidnapping. Poor Charlie, who had never seen the vicious assault coming, had to undergo surgery to get his face fixed from the brutal beating. 1. Bail agent shot down. Bounty hunter James Black from Lake Elsinore was gunned down by a rabid fugitive at a hotel in Moreno Valley. It happened on December 4, 2019. The bounty hunter had been trying to apprehend Chad James Green when everything went terribly wrong. James had managed to track Chad down to a sleazy motel, but when he went in for the arrest, Chad surprised him with a loaded weapon and shot the man to death, then leaped from a third-story window and ran away. It was a surprise ambush that left the father of 5 and a war hero dead in the last place he had probably wanted to die. Chad was identified as the shooter, and police tracked him down to a business park. When they cornered him, Chad shot at the deputies. It turned into a gun battle, which left Chad dead, and all because Chad had skipped bail. After hearing these wild stories, do you even think bounty hunters should exist? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and thanks for watching. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button for all the latest videos. See you again soon. Bye.